Welcome to MCN, part 2 of the search for the ultimate adventure bike. So in part 1 we basically assessed all the class leading adventure bikes for what I wanted in terms of something really capable off-road but also capable of travelling some sort of big miles. The winner of that test for me was the KTM 690 Enduro R. So I got the bike about 2.5 weeks ago and it is absolutely everything I hoped for and more, to be perfectly honest. I've been out on it as much as I possibly can. It's been a real pleasure to ride on and off road. I haven't done anything sort of serious yet, just been kind of doing sort of local lanes, but the beauty of the 690 for me is that it's almost as much fun on road as it is off road. So I picked up the bike from the KTM Centre in Hemel, who are an absolute pleasure to work with, which was great. And the whole part of this process is, like I say, to turn this into the ultimate adventure bike for me. As it is standard, it's not there because it's not particularly comfortable, it doesn't have any wind protection. There's a lot of things that kind of need doing to really kind of turn it into the bike of my dream, which is the aim. But starting at the front of the bike, I fitted double take mirrors. Basically, the main motivation for the double take mirrors is that they are indestructible, is their claim, mainly because they use the ram mounts, which are just very, very simple, but you can literally get the mirrors out the way when you're actually riding off-road, because with the standard mirrors you do sometimes find that when you're leant right forward they can hit your forearms, and then once you get back on the road you adjust them back in. At the moment I'm only got one mirror on because I've kind of used that same ram mount for my Garmin Montana 600 sat-nav, which I'm using for local green lanes. It's all a bit of a bodge at the moment, excuse the wiring, but I'll come to that later as to where we're ultimately going to be positioning that. So, also handguards. As standard, the bikes come with just the plastic handguards. These are the proper enduro handguards, proper wraparound, really strong, really sturdy, can protect you from a lot of potential damage of the throttle, levers, etc. A must. The other thing I've added is the Outback Motorex crash bars. So I was in two minds as to whether I was going to put those on because it is ultimately extra weight. The sort of verdict's out on the sort of KTM community, do you need them, do you not? But my theory is that the radiator's behind there, it wouldn't take much to potentially damage the radiator, and that could be a trip ending sort of damage to the bike. I think they're really neat. I think they fit completely well with the bike. I think they look great. So that was also a no-brainer. Really sturdy, really simple. I like those. On the subject of protection, I've also KTM Power Parts. There's lots of engine cases available. I've gone for the KTM Power Parts carbon protector here, which is just very simple. The main motivation for that is that the lever, the rear brake lever, is a little bit vulnerable there. And the risk is that if you hit it hard with a rock, you could actually puncture the engine casing with the lever. Obviously, again, another trip-ending sort of damage to the bike. So that's fitted. Also got that on the other side as well for the protection. Fitted the rally foot pegs. Basically, the standard foot pegs are quite small. The rally foot pegs are significantly bigger. Just make the whole experience more comfortable. Just means you can put more weight through your feet to help steer the bike, get it to do what you want, and especially long days standing up, it will make a big difference. Krieger heel guards. The only motivation for those is I'm going to be fitting the luggage, which involves a harness that sits over the back of the bike. That's just a strapping point, perfect strapping point. Tyres. It's a question you get asked so many times, and I'm currently living that dilemma of what tyre to put on the bike. At the moment, these are proving fine because they work really well on the road. These are the Mitas EO7s. They're kind of very much a sort of a 50-50 tyre. So they actually work really well on the road, feel nice on the road, and in dry weather in the summer, I think they'll essentially be okay. But as soon as it gets muddy, as soon as you start doing some more technical riding, I will need to put something else on. I will keep you posted as to what I actually do, because I'm still making a decision. So, rack. This is a KTM Power Parts rack, which is really nice, really neat. It gives a real good handhold, which is important because the stock sort of handhold is under there, which doesn't really cut it in my book. It also comes with a plate on there, so you can add a plate on it for if you wanted to put a bigger bag. Really like that. KTM Power Parts tail tidy. There's other tail tidies available, but I've gone for that mainly because it does the job. It does exactly what I wanted to, but it keeps all the same features of the number plate light, indicators, so it's completely legal. So turning it around, I've got the Akrapovic exhaust. The motivation for that isn't performance, it isn't noise. I don't want a noisy bike. The sort of riding I'm going to be doing, I don't want to be upsetting people, so it's quite nice. It's got a little bit more of a brap to it, if you like, but it's not noisy, which is great. The motivation for that was getting some weight off of the bike because the standard silencer is particularly big, and also to get some heat off of it because the standard silencer does run very, very hot. Once you've been running the bike, you literally can't go near it. The reason for that is I'm going to be putting the luggage on, and the luggage the harness will sit here. The worry is if it gets too hot, you can damage your luggage, even worse, set the thing on fire. Also comes with the heat shield there. That's also quite a vulnerable place. You know, the exhaust there, your legs there, just nice to save your melting boots, melting trousers. We've got engine protection on this side as well. And that's pretty much it. Obviously quite a few bits, little parts that have really kind of focused on making the bike so that to avoid problems really. You know, all the stuff I've sort of done on this is so that I can carry bags, I can navigate where I'm going, and I can hopefully keep the bike protected from any potential sort of problems you're going to have when you're out on the trail. But the next stage of the build is really the exciting bit. As I kind of mentioned earlier, I need to be able to do reasonable miles on the bike. At the moment, there's no wind protection at all. There's no screen. So you find as soon as you're kind of on fast A roads, motorways, you're getting so much wind on your chest that it just really does fatigue you. So I'm going to be fitting a Raid Garage tower, which is basically, it's going to kind of hopefully look a bit more like a Dakar bike. The motivation for that is threefold. Firstly, the extra shield sits a lot further forward, gives you a lot more wind protection, gets that weight off your chest, will hopefully enable me to be able to do bigger miles. It also enables me to put the sat nav and phone, or two sat navs, actually in the tower. Perfect line of vision, so when you're navigating, as opposed to this at the moment, I'm kind of having to look down, so perfectly positioned, and it looks amazing in my eyes. It already changed the look of the bike, so I'm really looking forward to getting that fitted. Also going to fit heated grips when I do that, so that really does become sort of an ultimate travel bike. Also going to be changing the seat. The seat, this is a standard KTM seat. It's hard, it's narrow, and it's okay, but it's not particularly comfortable. You know, the thought of doing sort of a long ride on it where you'd be sat down doesn't really fill me with joy, to be perfectly honest. So I'm going to be fitting a Concept Seats seat on it, which is an American make. They're quite expensive for what they are. They're like 450 quid or something, but everyone raves about them. It's also 1.5 centimeters lower, which is good for me because it is a tall bike. And the only other thing is the bash plate. I'm going to be putting, there's a number of bash plates available for this bike. Lots of manufacturers make them, most of them are metal. But I'm actually going to be fitting the AXP bash plate, mainly because it's lightweight. People really rave about them, say they're almost indestructible. There's no risk of them being fatigued over time with the vibration from the single cylinder motor. And like the other ones, it gives good protection of that rear brake master cylinder, which is something that is a little bit vulnerable on the bike. Right, so we've talked about what I've done to the bike so far, but we've got to the exciting bit now where we're gonna put the rally tower on the bike, under seat storage, and really get the thing set up for adventure. So The kit I'm putting on is the Raid Garage kit, which is a rally tower, so it gives, like I've already said, you know, it gives protection from the wind, obviously gives you somewhere you can put all your nav, and just, you know, makes the bike, just hopefully going to turn the bike into much more an adventure bike. So the Raid Garage kit is in theory a kind of plug and play sort of setup, but in reality, when it comes to sort of mechanics, my ambition very much outweighs my talent. So I've come to Ollie at Wrench Ride. I've known Ollie a number of years. He was very high on the list of people capable with the experience and who I ultimately wanted to work on my bike. So welcome, Ollie. Looking around your garage, which is a great setup, you know, the 690s, 701s, Husqvarna 701s, that's sort of your bread and butter to some degree.
690 701's my number one bike that I work on, just because people tend to pick this bike over anything else for the kind of dual sport market.
Yeah.
There's a reason why it's been going since 2008, is because it kind of does what it needs to.
Yeah, yeah.
And if you've only got one bike and you want to do a lot of off-road and adventure stuff, there's kind of nothing that sits in that 145 kilogram kind of bracket that you can kind of get everything you need for as well. You know, even if you keep it as a standard bike, there's loads of different bits you can put on it to make it run better and ride better and a little bit lighter. And then also if you want to go down the route like you are doing with a little bit of extra wind protection of lights, then there's loads of options for that as well.
Yeah, that's lights, obviously I didn't even mention that. So yeah, so basically we're here, we've got a couple of days penciled out of the diary, and we're going to start basically ripping the thing apart, and very much using Ollie's expertise. So one of the things we're doing now is fitting Heatley grips, because like I say, the idea is to turn this into the ultimate adventure bike, and you need warm hands. Going to be riding this all year round. Got pretty bad circulation, old age, etc, etc. So yeah, Heatley grips are a must. Gone for the Oxford Heatley grips, which I've used before, and they are some of the only grips I've ever actually had where you do, either however cold it is, you generally can't run them on the hottest setting. So rather than sort of OE grips you sometimes get on bikes, never, to me, sometimes get hot enough. So yeah.
Right, so on the underseat storage bit, people sometimes struggle on the airbox removal. So like I said, you've got a bolt either side at the back, a bolt either side at the front within the black panels. These are on the rubber locating like captive adapters. On the throttle body, there's two clamps. If you do the one closest to the front, you just loosen it off, and then get a flathead screwdriver in on the throttle body and just pop the throttle body tube off.
And there's no, you know, obviously KTM have put that airbox in for a reason. Obviously it's watertight and all that sort of stuff. I mean, is there any compromise by what we're going to be doing?
Yeah, there's always compromise, because you're shortening the distance for water getting into the throttle body, which is never good, but you're getting direct airflow as opposed to the closed box.
Yeah, because that's not sort of pressurised anyway, there's no sort of round.
No, and you're only running a paper air filter on the standard airbox, which is, you know, not really good for off-road, because if it gets wet it's just useless.
Right, so day 2 of the build up at Wrench Ride with Ollie, and a lot of the prep was done yesterday, made really good progress. Today's the day where all the nice bits come out of the box, we get to unwrap the tower and get that all fitted. Right, so 2 days of the build, and I cannot begin to tell you how glad I am that I didn't do it. Ollie is an expert at this. He's got a lot of experience of doing them, and he's been a pleasure to be with, pleasure to watch work. He's incredibly patient, incredibly meticulous, and just, you know, we didn't look at instructions. He knows what he's doing. That's the level of knowledge he's got. So it's, you know, a big thanks, Ollie, because it's been an experience just to watch an expert work. Right, so here we have it. The bike is built. The bike's exactly where I want it to be, and I have to say I'm really chuffed with the way it looks. I think the whole balance of the bike has changed, and it's really has turned out even better than I expected. So I've only ridden the bike a few times since the tower's been on, which is obviously the biggest change. I've done about 60 miles on sort of dual carriageways and motorways, and it's absolutely changed the whole ergonomics of the bike in terms of just being able to sit at speed, sit at motorway speed, sit in the fast lane. You can just sit there. And in addition to the actual protection it gives me from the wind, it's the lights. So basically the 690 Enduro R as standard pretty much comes with quite a standard, almost like an Enduro headlight, which doesn't really cut it compared with like modern motorbikes, road bikes. These twin LEDs are an absolute game changer. I mean, I've ridden it at night, and you just got that sensation of it just lighting up the whole road, which is obviously, you know, what I need, because we don't know where we're going to end up on this thing. You know, hopefully we're going to end up on some pretty good adventures. It's not a GS 1250, don't get me wrong, but compared with where it was without a fairing, it's just so much better. That also combined with the concept seat is just a game changer, just that much wider, just gives you that much more support, just a lot more comfortable. I've got all the nav set up there, the double sat nav, I've got the heated grips, so really has been a real game changer in terms of what the bike is now actually capable of. I've only got a short ride of it off-road, and one of the things I was almost worried about was having this big screen on there. Obviously does what it needs to in terms of being able to get me to where I need to and be able to do the road miles, but how compromised it was actually going to be off-road. And the good news is that honestly, when you're stood up, you really do barely notice it. So it really has met expectations, so I'm dead chuffed. We've only really scratched the surface though. Now the challenge is to actually go on a proper adventure, load the thing up, put the camping gear on, do some decent road miles, do some decent off-road miles, and really see exactly how it behaves. And you can see all that in our next episode of this video series.